Then he was saying that we kill more people per capita than anywhere else in the world. FBI, Census Bureau, United Nations all disagree. You know, Venezuela has one of the highest murder rates via gun in the entire world. Now, I don't know about you. Now, I kind of consider Venezuela a little bit of a third world nation. I think most of you would agree with that. But when Hugo Chavez died, the same people that tried to take away your firearms were saying that he had made that place into an industrialized mecca. Now, all of a sudden, it's a third world country. We can't take their crime stats to consideration. Isn't that interesting? So Rich kept going on and on and on with these same myths. And the reason that I went long with him, rather than cutting him off and making my sponsors happy by going to the break, was I wanted him to say every possible falsehood that he could to support his side. And I would reasonably pull up the information that is available, free, public. You got FBI.gov. That's like the easiest government website in the world to navigate. You kidding me? You ever try navigating the city of South Bend's website? Not so easy. All of these things that I pulled up prove my point consistently over and over and over and over again. This is not about saving children. This is not about saving innocent people, innocent women. This is not about saving the elderly. This is not about saving people who are disabled and can't defend themselves. This is all about one specific purpose. Because if it was really about safety, we'd be focusing on handguns, wouldn't we? I'm not saying that I support that. I'm saying if it were really about saving the children, it would be about handguns. It wouldn't be about something that killed 158 people when you're more likely to strangle somebody with your bare hands to death. It is about making sure, God forbid, and anybody who might be in the media or anybody out there blogging or anybody in law enforcement or government who might be listening to this, do not take this out of context. As the sheriff said earlier, it is to make sure that we have a mechanism to prevent tyranny from rising in this country. Now, by the way, when somebody puts this on YouTube, make sure you fast forward it to see how many times I pace back and forth. I love seeing this. Luckily, we've been pretty good at being able to do that in this country. We haven't been altogether successful. Let's go back in history and look at the people who did not have firearms rights. The Irish, the Russians, the Jews, the Chinese, the Japanese. Of course, we all know about slavery, Native Americans. They all didn't have gun rights. What happened to them? A lot of people forget about the Jews, the Russians, and the Irish basically being indentured servants in this country and one notch below actual slavery for many, many years. Our job is to make sure that the Constitution is applied to every American citizen properly. That is what we're out here for today. That is what the fight is going to be with our websites, our blogs, our friends, whether it be radio, television. And I would encourage you to make these very well-reasoned arguments using facts. Point them. When somebody comes out there and goes, hey, the United States is the most violent country in the world, really? Well, here's our government's data. Ah, you can't trust the government. They did 9/11. You can't trust them. Then push them to the UN. You got to give them a source that they will believe in as well. We all know that people will not listen to what I say because they disagree with me politically. I might be factually correct, but they won't. So you have to give them a source other than me. You have to give them a source other than Rush Limbaugh, a source other than Glenn Beck or the NRA or something else. That's why I always tell people, I said, you know what? The NRA is a great starting point, don't get me wrong. And they do some good research, but they have a goal. The Coalition Against Gun Violence, they have a goal. So use them as a starting point, and then you push them to where they got the data from. And a lot of times you'll find out that some of these organizations will manipulate that data and change it to fit their own philosophy. It happens. But if you don't direct people to the original source, and you go, well, here's the NRA's information, they're going, it's the NRA. Did you just win that argument? Were you able to win them over? Were you able to reason with them? Now, your information may have been correct, but they won't ever look at it. Because to them, it's not a legitimate source. Who here reads the Huffington Post and believes everything they say? Guess what? Occasionally they get something right, but you don't believe them, do you? Occasionally they get something right. That's all I'm asking people to do. And then there's the stats. Let's get to the fun stuff. Everybody knows I'm a numbers guy. I mentioned 158 people in 2011 were killed with assault rifles. Well, I should say aggressively styled hunting rifles. They're not actual assault rifles. We saw those in Massachusetts, though, didn't we? Everybody ever stop and question, why is it that all of these federal agencies and police officers needed the actual assault rifles, a fully automatic 3-round burst to hunt down one 19-year-old kid, but the guy who's smoking a cigarette wouldn't be allowed to do anything but have a shotgun? Anybody think that was a little strange? Would he have been arrested if he fired through the window or the door without looking at the guy? Like the vice president said we should do? Look, I don't like door-to-door salesmen any more than the rest of you, but I'm not going to shoot through my door. The little kid's got a right to sell candy bars. 158 people total in 2011, non-justifiable homicide with aggressively styled hunting rifles, AK-47s, AR-15s, etc. You are more likely in the United States of America to be struck by lightning and killed. You are more likely to be killed by wasps and bees. You are more likely to be bitten to death by that dog, who is behaving very well, by the way. Obviously, you know, you're more likely to be, actually, you know what, let me pull this out. Since I forgot my notes, I actually have this in my phone. And then I'm going to scare a bunch of you with a quote. I do apologize. I was supposed to have a piece of paper. Let's see here. You ready for this full list? More likely to kill yourself. You're more likely to die by falling. You're more likely to die by being a pedestrian. You're more likely to die by drowning, riding a bicycle, in a plane crash, electrocution, exposure to heat, cataclysmic storm, tornado, stung by bees, wasps, hornets, an earthquake, lightning, fireworks discharge, bitten by a dog. But the creme is you are more likely to murder somebody with a hammer or your bare fist, be tried, convicted, and then sentenced to death and actually executed in the United States of America than to be killed with an AR-15 or an AK-47. That is according to the National Safety Council. So you can't own the weapons that you have, even though you're more likely to murder somebody and be sentenced to death and actually execute. How long does it take to execute somebody in this country? What, 20, 30 years? That's more likely to happen than you be killed by one of these weapons, according to the National Safety Council, if their numbers are right. But I don't have any other data to go by. I have scared some people with my philosophy on firearms before, even the pro-Second Amendment crowd like you good folks here. Anybody know who Tench Cox is? There we go. Got a couple of people. Tench Cox is what we call a second-generation founding father. Isn't that the quote right there? I've had it for a while, but I remember. Yeah, I actually remember. Some people have sent that to me. He's what they call a second-generation founding father. He wasn't there at the very get-go. He was alive. He lived during the Revolution, but he was a part of Congress after. And he was a representative from Pennsylvania. The guy probably wrote more about the Second Amendment than anybody. Now, we all know the militia is UNON, in spite of what the other side might say. We all know that, especially in the Indiana Constitution. So he was making his point in his newspaper that the militia is the people, and that it is the birthright of every American to have at their disposal every implement of war used by the soldier. Every single one. Now some of you are going to go, Casey, you think we should have RPGs? Yeah, I do. Sorry. A lot of people aren't willing to go that far. I understand that. But I don't know about you. Again, God forbid something should ever happen. And I'm not saying it's going to happen now. When you start putting laws in place for future tyrants to use at their disposal, I get very concerned. Now, how are you going to shoot down a Black Hawk or an Apache or any other gunship with a Glock? I understand a lot of you are not willing to go there. I get it. Should you be able to have grenades? Yeah, I think that too. What about tanks? Well, you can own tanks. Vice President doesn't think you can, but there's a whole TV show about you being able to own tanks. You can own tanks. You can own fighter jets in the United States. You can own artillery in the United States. They all think that's illegal, but you can actually own this stuff. And you can fire some of it. Obviously, there's limitations on munitions, but that's where I become the radical. And I understand that a lot of you don't agree with that. This is not about hunting. You heard Sheriff Rogers talk about that before. What happens when they come for your assault rifles and then they realize, oh snap, hunting rifles kill more people than assault rifles. We gotta get rid of those. Well, we can't have scopes because then somebody could shoot somebody from a long distance. We might never find them. So let's get rid of scopes, let's get rid of hunting rifles. Now we're down to shotguns. Vice President loves them shotguns, doesn't he?
Double barrel.
Yeah, double barrel, right. Then they realize, man, who missed this? Did you know that way back in 2011, you were more likely to murder somebody with a shotgun than an assault rifle or even a hunting rifle? Did you know that? We gotta get rid of those things. Did you know that when they shoot, like, little fragments go everywhere? We gotta get rid of that buckshot stuff. That's awful. And those slugs, they put too much range on those things. You only need, about 8 feet of range when they come into your home. They just gotta be able to punch through the door and the window, right? And then they look at it and they go, man, these semi-automatic handguns, they're still killing people. In fact, the crime rate statistically is still exactly the same. Because we've only gotten rid of shotguns, hunting rifles, and aggressively styled hunting rifles, or modern sporting rifles. I know some of you prefer that term. And since that only accounts for about 500 people, you're still talking about 8,000 people. Well, we gotta get rid of these handguns. Now, some of you are going, well, we got the Second Amendment. And remember, the president did say, oh, they think the government's going to come take them. We're the government. The people. I mean, we represent them. The government can't possibly do anything bad, ever. Never happens. Never infringe on your freedoms at all. Never. I don't think that they're going to come and actually take them out of your home and forbid you from owning them. Here's what I think is going to happen, if this move is ever made. In Europe, you're allowed to own these types of weapons. In many countries, you're allowed to own them. However, you can't take them home. You've got to be a member of a sporting club. You pay your membership, and you store your weapons there. They cannot leave that facility. Second Amendment hasn't been infringed upon. You can still own any weapon you want. Just got to put it over there. It's no infringement. What are you talking about? Second Amendment's still there. That's my biggest fear. Some people fear them coming into your home, and I know the White House had a report that said their gun control bill would not work unless they actually did a national gun registry and started confiscating, which of course is unconstitutional because of ex post facto, but that's a whole other thing. When we start looking at the laws that are being proposed, and Harry Reid said that he will bring these back up again, who, by the way, has a history of being a pro-gun guy. Brand new gun range in Las Vegas, Nevada. The land was secured by Harry Reid to make that gun range. So he's even adjusted his position on this over the past several years. He's usually got a pretty good NRA rating. Yeah. I'll apologize for Harry Reid, you apologize for Donnelly. Make that fair.